If God told you to bless your enemy, how would you respond? He was a prophet who loved justice and despised evil. He could hear the voice of God, and he knew the will of the Lord. He followed God sincerely. This was no false servant. Yet even the faithful can struggle with the mercy of the God they serve. This is not just the story of a man who ran, but of a man who could not yet agree with the wideness of God's grace. Because sometimes the hardest part of faith is not obeying what God says. It is accepting whom God loves. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, "Arise, go to the great city of Nineveh." It was a hard command to face the enemy and to speak mercy. His heart trembled. Obedience and resistance clashed within him. So he chose not to go to Nineveh, but set out in the opposite direction. He walked toward the sea, searching for a ship bound for Tarshish. He thought that if he could leave this land, he could escape God's call. He told himself, "The sea is wide, and Nineveh is far away. Maybe God will not find me there." Night fell over the shore. On the sea, the Lord sent a storm. The wind roared, and the waves struck the ship. The sea raged like a wild beast, and the sky hung heavy like iron. The sailors cried out in fear, each praying to his own God. They threw their cargo overboard, hoping the ship would stay afloat. The wooden vessel shook in the furious sea. Jonah kept his head low, the wind whipping through his hair. He knew this was no ordinary storm. Yet he went below deck and slept. The captain came and shook him, saying, "How can you sleep at a time like this? Get up, call upon your God." The sailors were terrified and began to blame one another. Who has angered the gods? The wind howled across the deck. Someone suggested casting lots, and they began to draw stones. The stones rolled across the wooden floor until they stopped before Jonah. Every eye turned to him. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. They asked, "What have you done? Who are you?" Jonah lifted his head and said, "I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God who made the sea and the land." When they heard this, their fear grew deeper, for they knew he was running from that God. Then they cried out to the Lord, saying, "O Lord, do not let us perish because of this man. You have done as you pleased." Then Jonah spoke again. "Throw me into the sea," he said, "and the storm will grow still." So they cast Jonah into the sea. The storm grew still, and the men bowed their heads in awe. They prayed to the Lord with thanksgiving and made vows before him upon the sea. Fear gripped his heart as life slipped away. But in the silence beneath the sea, he remembered the Lord and cried out. "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me." In that moment of surrender, God's mercy reached him, and a great fish appeared, swallowing Jonah whole. Darkness surrounded him, alone in the depths. In his despair, he turned back to God and prayed. "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From the depths of the grave I cried for help, and you heard my voice. You cast me into the deep. The waters closed around me, and your waves swept over me. Seaweed wrapped around my head. I sank to the roots of the mountains. Yet you brought my life up from the pit, O Lord my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer rose to you, reaching your holy temple. With a voice of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you. Salvation belongs to the Lord." His words reached God, and the Lord showed mercy to him. On the third day, the Lord commanded the fish, and it released Jonah onto dry land. Jonah breathed again. Life had been given back to him. The word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. In the light upon the shore, he heard the voice once more. "Arise, go to the great city of Nineveh." Jonah bowed his head in reverence. This time he obeyed the call of God and set out toward Nineveh. Jonah hurried on his way, dust rising beneath his feet. He came to Nineveh, a vast and mighty city. Walking through its streets, he lifted his voice and proclaimed with power, 40 more days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown." Jonah kept shouting on and on, his voice echoing through the city. The people heard his words and believed God. From the greatest to the least, they put on sackcloth and repented. When the message reached the king of Nineveh, he removed his robe, covered himself with ashes, and declared a fast for all. Even the animals, cattle, and sheep were covered with sackcloth, and they cried out together with the people. The king proclaimed, "Let everyone turn from his evil ways, and from the violence of his hands. Let neither man nor beast eat or drink, but let them call earnestly upon God. Perhaps he will show mercy and spare us from destruction." But when God had mercy on Nineveh, Jonah grew angry. His heart burned with frustration, and he prayed to the Lord, "O Lord, I knew that you are a God of mercy and compassion, slow to anger and abounding in love. That is why I fled to Tarshish. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." And the Lord said to him, "Do you have any right to be angry?" Jonah's chest heaved, his voice echoing beneath the blazing sun, a cry of fury and pain burning like fire within his heart. Jonah went out from the city and sat to the east of it. There he built a shelter and sat in its shade, waiting to see what would happen to the city. Then the Lord provided a plant to give shade for his head and ease his discomfort. And Jonah was glad because of the plant. But at dawn the next day, God sent a worm that attacked the plant so that it withered. When the sun rose, God sent a scorching east wind. The sun beat down on Jonah's head until he grew faint and wished to die, saying, "It is better for me to die than to live." But the Lord said, "You have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and many animals as well. Should I not be concerned about that great city?" And the wind moved gently across the barren land. The voice of God still lingered, for his mercy was not only for a city, but for every wandering heart. Man's anger fades, but God's compassion endures. And when all falls quiet, your grace remains.